Hello, welcome to Conway Video. So I thought I would do a video on a topic that is quite relevant at the moment, and that is the coronavirus. So I wanted to give you kind of my top tips about dealing with this virus and its side effects and secondary effects. And so without further ado, I guess let's get into my tips for dealing with coronavirus. And these tips are really meant to apply to everyone, whether or not you actually have the virus. At the moment, as far as I can tell, I don't. Touch wood. But I think whether or not you get it, it's probably a good idea to be prepared and have a plan anyway. Because A, you might get it, and B, there's going to be, or it seems like there already are, a lot of changes going on in the economy and the world, frankly, in response to the virus that are probably going to come around and affect you. So here are my kind of tips. So I'll start with one tip, which is wash your hands. This is something I've been doing, and I think it's just good to wash your hands for 20 seconds just for hygiene reasons and just generally to avoid getting sick, because this probably isn't the best time to be getting the flu or the cold or any kind of sickness. So I guess that's my first tip, is to wash your hands. The second tip is to stock up on food. Some people would say it's a little bit crazy to be stocking up on food, but I would just say, well, you know, that it doesn't hurt to stock up on food. It's pretty cheap, you know, compared to anything else out there that you could be spending your money on. Food tends to be fairly cheap, so if you stock up on some basic food items, it's probably not going to hurt you. The worst case is that you'll have a bit of extra food that you didn't really need anyway, and then you can just kind of use up that food later on as you need it. So the food items I recommend on stocking up on, and it's funny because I don't see many people stocking up on these items. I seem to see people buying all kinds of other stuff, but they don't buy these two. But these two are my favorites. They're my go-to items, and that's oatmeal, and peanut butter. I think those two together are like two of the best foods that you are going to find in a supermarket to stock up on. The reason is that they are very calorie dense, right? So you can pack a lot of calories in a very small kind of size of item. Number two is that they're very nutritious. So peanut butter, it's used by the UN in countries like Africa to feed people who have nutritional deficiencies, and so that should give you some idea of how nutrient dense it is. That, you know, the UN thinks that this is the best thing you can give people who are in a bit of a crisis. So I would say, since we're in a bit of a crisis now, why not stock up on something that's very nutritious? Same with oats. Oats have really good nutrition in them. They tend to have they don't have any added sugar. Same with peanut butter if you get the right brand. So these two combined can also give you a complete protein. So, you know, you can stock up on chicken or fish, but these also contain a complete protein if you have both of them. And they tend to be, they don't have any added sugar, they don't have any added preservatives. They're just a really nice all-round natural food item. And another thing about oats, I think, that makes it slightly better than other kinds of carbs is that it doesn't have to be cooked. It doesn't have to be you know, prepared. It's not like beans where you have to soak them and all this stuff. With oats, you just chuck them in a bowl and chuck in some water and wait for a little bit and you're done. But you can cook them if you want. So there are a lot of other food items, of course, and I think sardines are good. Like canned fish, canned tuna is good. Chicken, I just feel like chicken, it's usually sold in such a way that you have to keep it in the fridge, and that's just annoying, and it goes off, and there's all these things you have to worry about that with canned foods you just don't. So I tend to go for canned foods instead. So okay, what's my next tip? My next tip is to work from home. I think working from home, if your employer will let you, and my employer has been pretty much encouraging all of us, in fact almost telling us you have to work from home. They haven't quite gone that far, but they've gotten very close to almost ordering us to work from home. So I think that if your employer allows it or even encourages it, then yeah, why not work from home? Why not firstly take advantage of this opportunity to work remotely, you know, when employers tend to be encouraging it. And secondly, it's just less likely you're going to catch something if you're out and about all the time, or if you're mixing with a lot of workmates. If you just stay home, you're probably, anything that goes wrong, not just catching the virus itself, but, you know, just any kind of random stuff that goes wrong at this time, you'll probably be able to avoid by just being at home and not being out and about in the public or at the workplace. So yeah, I definitely recommend working from home. Another one is keep healthy, keep exercising if you can at home, or maybe take a quick trip to the gym, and keep eating healthy food and getting as much sleep as possible. Because I think, like, it's a bit stressful hearing all these things on the news and seeing all these crazy things happening, like people buying lots of toilet paper for no reason all of a sudden. So like, it doesn't hurt to kind of take care of yourself just that little more. Just give yourself that little extra bit of self-love, right? Try and get that extra hour or two of sleep. Try and get that, half hour of exercise every day if you can. Try and eat those healthy foods. You're always going to be better off if you're fit than if you're not fit. You're always going to be better off if you're well rested than if you're not well rested. That's the way I tend to think about it. So, like, why not, give yourself a little bit of extra kindness and give your body a bit of extra kindness. And the worst that could happen is that you'll just be in a better state of mind and body coming out of this whole thing. So yeah, that's another, probably like my fourth recommendation, or is it third? I don't know. I've lost count of where I'm at. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, staying healthy and fit. What's another one? I suppose it's a bit hard to call this advice or tips, because it's sort of something that you would have had to have known to have done earlier. But I'm just going to say it anyway. It's probably a good idea to have some cash. It doesn't have to necessarily be hard physical cash, but like cash, right? Money in a bank account, in a deposit account, in a checking account, money that you can access, money that you can use. I'm always big on having a fair amount of cash, and people debate this and that about inflation and cash is just going to lose its value, or you can't trust the banks or whatever. But I just tend to think cash is the most stable, reliable, and practical thing that you have to store value, other than actually buying the items and storing them yourself. So if you're going to go as far as buying food, that's a really good thing. You can store that and keep that for when you need it. But I'd say the next step beyond storing food is cash. That's just the next thing you're going to have that's going to be of any practical use. And if you've got a good buffer of cash, then that can kind of help you during the transition phases, or during, maybe losing your job and taking a new job, or it's just good to have the cash there just in case you need it to, I don't know, travel somewhere, maybe change your accommodation. Maybe it's just something changes your living situation because of the virus and the second order effects of it, and you just need to have some cash there. And I think cash is always a really good idea. I'm not saying go sell your stocks or shares just yet. I believe in staying the course, but if you haven't got some cash already, it's probably a good idea to start saving up a bit of cash, just because cash can be really useful and handy. And what are some other tips? I like the idea of talking to your neighbours, talking to people around you. I've certainly met my neighbours and had a chat with them, and it's always good just to know people, because you just never know if something might happen in your neighbourhood related to the virus, or even not related to the virus, and you might just need to be in the know about it. And so, like, just being on speaking terms with your neighbours, maybe having their phone number or their WhatsApp, it can't hurt. It's always, I think, a useful thing. A lot of these tips are kind of things I would kind of do anyway, but since the coronavirus is on everyone's mind, I thought, why not make a video about that? I suppose the other thing I'm thinking is there's don't panic, but I guess what I mean by don't panic is don't necessarily change any long-term plans, unless they have to change, of course. So I've had one or two flights cancelled because of the virus, but that doesn't mean I'm going to change my long-term plan. Doesn't mean I'm going to suddenly change my career. It doesn't mean I'm going to change my life plans or my long-term goals. So I would say, like, stick in there and hang in there with your long-term goals. Instead of changing them or giving up on them, it's probably better to find a new way to make them work in a new economic environment, in a new kind of different human environment that we're in now. And it's not necessarily going to change everything, this virus. So a lot of things are probably going to stay the same. So there may be some way to make your plans with regard to wealth, with regard to money, with regard to traveling or career. There may be some good ways to make your plans still work out even with these changes going on. So I'd always go on the side of adapting rather than the side of changing plans and cancelling things and stuff. I'd much rather keep going with the plans and just adapt myself to the new environment, just change my outlook, change my expectations, but keep my goals in place very much. So anyway, those are my kind of top tips. I think I got to around 5 or 6 or something. But anyway, yeah, those are my top tips about the coronavirus, and those are the things I'm going to be doing during this period. All the best, stay well, stay healthy, and I'll be making some videos later on. Thanks for watching.